way to compete at the highest level no matter what. Now, that's unusual because look, is it possible to win every game? Absolutely not. But playing with Michael Jordan, it was possible to want to win every game and have an opportunity to win every game. Now, how many people can actually say that in an 82-game season? Playing with Michael Jordan, we had an opportunity to win all 82 games. And when he was in practice, he did that. He was going to win every drill. He was going to compete for every loose ball. Anything that had to do with basketball, he was going to compete at the highest level. But even more so, when you were playing ping pong or you were playing pool, we were playing cards or whatever we were doing, whose luggage was going to come out first, he was going to be the same. So when you saw someone, this is who he was, right? He was that whether the lights were on or the lights were off. It was just a very unusual thing to see because it wasn't an act. He was going to compete. If he was here right now, somehow we would get into some competition because he has to compete. And, look, how many times you see people say, hey, when I play in between the lines, I'm a different person. No, he was that same person all the time, 24 hours a day.
So that being said, and you guys are different cats. I mean, if you're a first-round pick the way you were, you're a different guy. I think you guys are wired differently. But even on that level, is that shit not exhausting? If it's 24/7, if this guy wakes up competing at who makes the bed the best or whose luggage is coming off first, is that shit not exhausting at some point?
Well, I can tell you what, I've been on both sides of the coin. When you're winning, life is great, and when you're losing in the NBA, I can't think of anything that you can experience as a professional basketball player when you're going into a game and you're doing your best, but truth is you're not going to win or have an opportunity to win. Was it exhausting? Yes, it was exhausting because you know what? You had to bring that level of focus and attention every single day because he was going to find it. Like, look, we all are tired. You're playing 4 games in 5 nights. 4 games in 5 nights, you know what? You have every excuse to lose that game, right? You have every excuse. You're traveling, you get in late, so forth and so on. But let me assure you this. Number 23 was going to find a way not only to compete, but win that game. And he was going to find a way. So you had to make a decision with him. Am I in or am I out? And if you weren't comfortable being all the way in, that could be a very uncomfortable thing for you. But for us who was comfortable saying, you know what, this is what I could bring that night. If anything, I brought whatever I had that night. And he saw that. He knew he was something different. He knew that. But he also expected from you to bring what you could bring to the game. And as long as you did that, there was no problems with him because the man was going to perform. I mean, he was undeniable that way. And, that's what we saw. And I think all of us saw something special, and we knew it was special. And I think we probably, or at least I did, I marveled at the fact that he could repeat this over and over and over again because once you're playing in the playoffs, you're playing over 100 games, but somehow he was able to do it.
So, BJ, for instance, and that's to me, as gifted as Mike was, explosive, as long, as smart as he was, I've always been most amazed by that grind, that drive, that he could do this over and over and over again and never lost that grit, that heart, that will. But if you got on the wrong side of him because you didn't meet his standard or you didn't show up the way you need to show up, I don't mean you, I mean anybody on that team, what was it like to get on the wrong side of Mike? Are we talking about like verbal abuse? Are we talking about a guy getting the hands? Like, what was it like to incur Mike's wrath?
Well, he's going to apply the pressure, right? What gave him that confidence, and certainly we all can identify with it, whatever you do, right? Whatever you do in life, right? Broadcasting, doctor, whatever you do, whatever profession you choose, right? When you put the work into being the best that you can be, there's an inner confidence that comes with that. You couldn't fake it with him because not only was he better than you physically, he's probably stronger than you mentally. he was going to work. He was going to work on his craft, right? No matter how hard I worked as a player, there was nothing that I could do to beat him in a one-on-one type of setting because he just had the physical gifts and he had a physical advantage over every player in the NBA, right? He was stronger, faster, more athletic than every player in the NBA. But when you match that with the work ethic and the type of work ethic that he had, now he can not only talk about what he was doing, he was backing it up. And that was on display every day, right? This wasn't like I heard he works out. No, you knew he was working out and he was bringing it, so you felt that pressure and you knew that he was coming for you. He was coming. He would sniff that out. And you know people who are prepared and you know people who are not prepared. If you missed a shot, that's okay. He missed shots. He'll tell you, I missed more shots to win a game than I made, but I shot them. And he was prepared for it, and he prepared for those moments. So he knew that. He would sniff that out. And if he saw a weakness or he saw that you weren't who you said you were, he was coming after you. And that was, look, that's the NBA is that was a league. It still is a league where it's played by the greatest players. And if they find any weakness, they're going to exploit it. And Michael didn't wait to the playoffs to do that. He was going to exploit. If he found a weakness in the first quarter, he was going right at it. He was just going to repeat that over and over again until you gave up. And that's what he really wanted. He wanted you to give up.
He was a killer. The best ones are. I think, for instance, BJ, I've only interviewed Mike once, and the amazing thing was it was during Space Jam, and I had a cameo in that movie, so I thought that was my way in. And I started to work an angle with George Raveling because Raveling was with Nike, and he said he could do it. And Mike, and I went to UC Santa Barbara, and Mike was up there to camp in Santa Barbara. Like, I was working every angle I could for months and months and months and months. And I finally got Mike on the radio program when there were not a lot of radio programs like mine. It was that hard, and that was the only conversation I ever had with the guy. So because that he never does this, it's awe-inspiring to see Mike in that chair, in his house, with that cigar, and whatever he's got in that glass. And by the way, that's a man's pour. Hey, PJ, what does he have in that glass, by the way?
I have no idea, but it was pretty funny, though, because a lot of people are wondering and thinking the same thing.
Right. So, okay, that said, like, that version that we see of Mike, those interviews, how close, and again, it's on camera, and he knows that. He's very self-aware. But how close are those interviews to the real MJ, the MJ that you know?
Well, it really is. I really think, well, and I didn't think. I should take that back. I know he's going to go there because you don't commit to a 10-part series and you can't fluff it, right? I think he's going to really reveal. You're going to see the raw emotions. I think you're going to see who this man was. I would venture to say, I haven't seen it, but it has to be, right? If just knowing what we went through with the Detroit Pistons, knowing what he's gone through, the man he's a warrior. That's what he is. I mean, he is a true warrior in every sense of the word. I mean, he has no concept of the word to give up, right? The light switch is on or the light switch is off. For him, it's on. It's on to this moment. So I think he's going to go there. I think it probably in some regards for him, it's something that he feels a need for, whatever that need may be, to reveal that part of himself that no one has known. I mean, he is basically held on to this. And, he's just, I think he's at a stage of his life where he's probably saying, you know what? Yeah, this is who you thought you knew Michael Jordan, but this is who he really is. And if someone's going to really get that story, I should be the one to tell it. And I agree. Because he should be, because no one has done it before him like this. No one has done it since him. And when you talk about this business that we're in, right? There's the bottom line, which is winning games, and then there's a top line, which is putting people in the seats, the entertainment aspect of the business. And when you combine those two, he's the best. He's the greatest to ever do it, right? He affected the game like no other, right? He was the best of his era, and you can put him in any era, and he's going to be one of the top players to ever play, right? In any era, right? One or two, whomever you want to argue who's the greatest player. But when you combine the entertainment value of this business, right? I don't know if it's all sports. I don't know if it's all entertainment. It's some type of hybrid of some sort. Michael Jordan is the greatest player to ever play. And he's just probably the greatest athlete as I'm thinking about it to ever do it, because he had such an impact on the value of what sports is really all about, which is it's a business. And I think that example, what it showed you in the first episodes was when he got hurt, he had a clear vision and understanding of the business when he hurt his foot. And I think that's what seasoned him. That's what hardened him to understand that, this is a business. Yeah, every player has a dream to play in the NBA. And once you get here and when you learn that lesson, you have to make a decision. And I think he made that decision, and I think that's what gave him this focus, gave him this drive, this determination. And I think it's going to go there. I think you're going to really see the real Michael Jordan as this unfolds.
BG, I could do this for hours. I want to be careful about the spots that I pick before I let you go. I'm so enjoying this conversation. But you mentioned the Pistons, and we haven't seen any of that. But you said what we went through with the Pistons. Like, what did you go through? What was it like to deal with the likes of Mahorn and Lane Beer and Rodman and Isaiah and having to keep going to war with these guys before Chicago finally got through, finally got over? What was it like to go to war with them?
Well, first of all, you have to tip your hat to them. They were a very, very, very good basketball team, right?
Oh, yeah.
They had Hall of Fame players. They had a Hall of Fame coach. And more so than physically, right? They were very, very good physically. Mentally, they were sensational, right? They were a mentally tough group, right? If you ever want to say mentally, who could you want to be if you had to say pick one team? This team was mentally tough, right? So when you played the Pistons, yes, Michael was clearly the most gifted physical player on the court, but mentally it was mental warfare, right? And it wasn't until we were able to match them mentally with the mental toughness that was necessary, we weren't going to beat this team. And that was probably one of the most difficult lessons to learn, because it takes, you have to, just because you can score a lot of points, just because you can, maybe you're faster and stronger than someone else, back then no one really cared, right? And one of the things that we all knew was, we knew we had the best player, but they had the best team, and they always felt that they were going to win the game. So it wasn't until we developed that attitude and we figured out who we were going to be, and we had the mental capacity to meet that challenge, right? We had to figure out how to get our second best player, Scottie Pippen, an opportunity to be and put his impact on the game, because we couldn't offset the way they were going to play in the last 4 minutes of a game, because they had a team that was built for the playoffs, right? They had Dennis Rodman coming off the bench. They had John Sally. They had Isaiah, Joe Dumars, Benny Johnson. They had a talent that was built to just grind the game out. And we had to figure out and really ask ourselves, who are we? And who are we going to be? And what are we going to do when we get to our moment of truth? So the Pistons for us represented our moment of truth. And once we figured out who we were going to be mentally, the rest was history, because we knew we had the same level of talent, if not better. We felt we had better talent than them because of our two players, just the way they played. But mentally, as a group, they were a tough group, and we began to believe in ourselves. We matched their energy, and once we figured that out, we never looked back. And I can tell you it was great games because